Today on Keeping You Organized, we start our Countdown to NAPO series, where we'll be talking to some of the presenters at this year's NAPO National Conference. Regina Lark from aclearpath.net kicks it off on today's Keeping You Organized. Today on Keeping You Organized, we are going to talk about organizing for people that have special needs. And we've got an expert in that area with Regina Lark from aclearpath.net. Regina, welcome today to Keeping You Organized.
Hi. Thank you very much. It's good to be here with you today.
Now, you are based in the Los Angeles area?
I am.
You're also quite involved in NAPO. Let's just take a few seconds to talk about that, because this is kind of our Countdown to NAPO series that we're doing. And what's your role at NAPO?
My role for NAPO National is I chair the Education Committee, and I've been the Ed Chair for 3 years. I'm winding that down, and we're currently identifying people to take my place and become the new Ed Chair. For my local LA NAPO chapter, I'm currently the Director of Professional Development.
Okay. And what does the Director of Professional Development do?
The Director of Professional Development in the NAPO LA chapter, and in all of the chapters, I assume, the similar role we have is we do the programming. We come up with the programs for our chapter meetings every month. And so I get to identify awesome speakers and panel ideas and bring them to our chapter, and I love doing that. It's just great fun.
Well, speaking of speaking, and I know you and our good friend Leslie Josell are teaming up at this year's NAPO conference to do a session. And tell us what the title, or if you have a title yet, or kind of the focus of what that session is all about.
I do have a title. I don't have it memorized, but the focus of the session is to help organizers learn about organizing for people with special needs and abilities. Leslie has a very strong background in organizing kids with ADHD, and she's got wonderful products that are both in development and things that she's already put together. I think she's got a fantastic day planner for students with ADHD. My side of the story comes in through a lot of research that I've done to find out how do you organize for people with mental illness, folks in wheelchairs, how do you create organizing projects with some of our clients who have, they don't have full access to their every body part. They have maybe chronic fatigue syndrome. They're families with autism. Adult women with ADHD. And so there's a whole spectrum of physical, mental, cognitive issues that are just running through somebody's day, and then throw on disorganization, maybe chronic disorganization. And so helping our clients who are in these particular life situations, how do we help them get organized, stay organized, and declutter?
All right, well, let's go to step one. So someone contacts you, and I know you do both virtual and in-person work. What are some of the very first steps you have to do? Do you have to kind of identify what their strengths and weaknesses are? Or what do you do in maybe the first session?
In the first session, I'll speak with somebody who's a wheelchair user. And I'm going to back up a second here and encourage listeners, if you are working with people with special needs and abilities, to understand or to acquaint yourself with some of the particular languages that we may use. It's not somebody who's wheelchair bound. They're not bound to a wheelchair. They're choosing to use a wheelchair to get around. So a wheelchair user instead of somebody who is wheelchair bound. So a client calls me and she tells me she's a wheelchair user, and we meet, and the first thing I do is to recognize or talk about her range of abilities. How far is her reach? How far up can she go? How far to the side? What are her mobility issues? Is she able to transfer herself from a bed to a wheelchair into a standing position? So what can she do? What are her abilities? And then find out what her limitations are. I don't want to call them weaknesses, because she's not weak in an area. It's mostly not being able to do something because she is not able to stand up. So that's not a weakness. It's just one of the challenges she has being a wheelchair user.
Let me ask you this then. When you're working with someone like this, what is the bigger challenge? The equipment, the tools, or the mental game? Because we know there's a lot involved in the mental game of organizing as well. Do you see one or the other being more challenging?
I don't see it being more challenging, but all things have to be considered. So it's recognizing what the challenges are, what the abilities are. One of the big challenges for somebody who's in a wheelchair is if you don't have access to the cupboards above the countertop, where do you stash your things? So coming up with creative strategies to provide access to store your stuff. If you can't put it up above where you're not able to reach it, how are you going to, what do you need to do closer to where you live? Are you able to stash stuff? And so coming up with storage solutions.
Do you do that part first, though? Do you work on the tools first and then say, okay, now that we've kind of identified the tools, now let's talk about the procedure, how we're going to go about using these tools?
Right. Well, what we need to do is identify what the goals are for the space and to see what kind of organizing needs to go on there. And once we identify the goals, we'll roll up our sleeves and get to work. We will start moving on decluttering the spaces that are causing them havoc. Why did they call me in the first place? And we deal with that. Once we have relieved the site of the things that they don't need, use, want, or desire, then we see what we're left with and offer other types of storage solutions if they're not able to access traditional storage areas of their home.
So do you find there's a certain, like let's use I'm assuming the wheelchair user is an example of yours that is a true story. We don't have to give names or anything, but what would be some of the tools or storage solutions that they could use that maybe aren't straight off the shelf that you'd find in typical organizing retailers, but what are some of the things that you've found that can work well for a wheelchair user?
Coming up with some creative strategies, like if people in wheelchairs are not any different from folks who use their legs, you have to be able to put things away. One of the challenges that a wheelchair user may have is they may not be able to carry multiple things at once. And so get a small box or a lightweight basket to put on the lap. And as you're going through, a lot of folks at the end of the day will do one sweep around the house, just picking things up that don't belong in that room and putting back and just kind of going through their space, picking up and putting away. So somebody in a wheelchair might put a box or a lightweight basket on their lap and go through their house and do a similar motion that I would encourage somebody legs. Just go from room to room, take off the countertop what doesn't belong there, and look in your basket or box to see what does belong on the countertop and take it out and just do one sweep around the house rather than going from room to room to room, taking things and putting them back.
When I'm listening to you talking, and I know there's a lot of specialty organizing skills. How did you get into this? Did you start off in regular organizing and kind of morph into this based on customer demand, or is there something in your background that trained you for this?
That's a very good question. What is in my background is I spent several years in a administrative capacity at UCLA. And at UCLA, I was an assistant director in women's studies. In my capacity in women's studies, we put together a huge program called Feminism Confronts Disability. And quite honestly, that was 2004. That was one of my very first forays into working with people with a range of disabilities. One of my very closest friends today, Laura Legendary, is a woman that I met at that conference who's legally blind and managed under her own steam to get to that conference in Los Angeles from her home in Seattle. It was that important to her to be there for that weekend. And so my experience planning and staging that conference provided me with access to a lot of people whose abilities just knocked my socks off. From there, I was part of the task team to bring a disability studies minor to the campus. And then when I left my role at UCLA in women's studies, and I was hired to be a director at our adult ed program, UCLA Extension, I was part of the team to do interviews for developmentally disabled adults looking for admission into a college program that was developed for this particular population. And so I had tremendous exposure to strong, gifted, able people who did not fit mainstream ideas of what success should look like or how you even get there. Fast forward into my work as an organizer. When I started, I thought I was just going to make garages look pretty, like many of my colleagues. I came into the work quite by happenstance. I had been laid off from the job at UCLA Extension. I'm a working person. Nobody puts baby in a corner. And so 3 months after my layoff, I had started a clear path.
I want to talk more about that and talk more about working with people that are challenged with either disabilities or special needs. And we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with Regina Lark, certified professional organizer with A Clear Path on keeping you organized. Do you need ideas on to-do lists, keeping focus, and filing information while on the go? The 100 Ideas for Better Organization ebook by Smead is sure to be a helpful tool for your organizing needs. Each idea is titled so you can quickly scan the book for whatever topic you may need to reference at the given time. With over 100 years in the organizing business, this free ebook will become a well-used resource and motivator for introducing ideas that boost your productivity. Get the 100 Ideas for Better Organization ebook by going to smead.com/100. Download yours now at smead.com/100. Smead, keeping you organized. We are back now on Keeping You Organized, and joining us is Regina Lark, certified professional organizer from A Clear Path, her website, aclearpath.net, out in Los Angeles, California. Our countdown to NAPO is continuing here, and Regina and our friend Leslie Josell are going to be speaking at that conference, talking about working with people that have special needs and things like ADHD and all kinds of different disabilities. And Regina, I do want to touch, before the break, we were talking about this award that you got from NAPO about the most innovating organizer in 2013. What's the backstory on that? Maybe how were you nominated, and was there something specific that maybe triggered that?
Well, I don't know, and I don't know. It was as much as a surprise to me that it was to anybody. We were at the awards event, and I heard the category, and I'm talking to a friend. I did not know I was nominated, and I don't know why. I'm a very fearless person when it comes to how to get the word out about what it is that we do. And so I've been a Living Social and a Groupon special person. I'm about to make a commercial for Time Warner Cable to promote my business. And I don't know of other organizers in LA who are doing this, but I figured it out.
I was going to ask you about your book. I know we got so much to talk about here, but the Psychic Debris and Crowded Closets is a mouthful to say, but when did you write that book, and what's inside of it that we can learn from?
The book was actually born out of a 6-week teleseminar I taught in June of 2011. In June of 2011, business had taken a dip, and I'm thinking, I got to get the word out. How do I bring myself out there again? And that day, I developed a course, a 6-week telecourse called Psychic Debris, Crowded Closets, relationship between the stuff in your head and what's under your bed. That night, I gave a presentation on time management, and I told the women at the meeting, by the way, I have this new class about to start. I didn't even know how to have a teleclass at that moment. About 8 months after that class, I sat up in the middle of the night in bed and I said, hey, I should have those 6-week MP3s transcribed. About 8 months later, I sat up in the middle of the night again. I said, hey, I have a book in my computer. I'm lucky in that my best friend is an editor and a publisher. I sent her week 1 of the transcription. She sent me an edited version of week 1, and I had the book within 4 months. And so for me, most of my ideas usually seem doable, and I just run with it. I fling it out there, I look to see what lands, and I'm usually pretty smart about such things.
What do you look forward to when you go to the NAPO conference? Is there something that that energizes you there?
Oh, the education absolutely energizes me. I love NAPO conferences. I walk away learning so much, and as a result of my time at NAPO, usually my business will change for the better.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, listen, we're just about out of time. I want to give you an opportunity to let people know how they can reach out, because you do virtual consulting as well as the local LA area. What's the best way for people to reach you?
Well, my website is aclearpath.net. Easy to reach me through email, regina@aclearpath.net. And my phone number, our office phone number is 310-710-3379.
Awesome. Well, Regina, we have had just a great time. We've covered a lot of territory here today, too.
Yeah.
But enjoyed having you on. Hopefully we can get you back on again on a future episode. And we look forward to having everybody hear you, you and Leslie speaking at NAPO this year.
Fun.
And best wishes to you for the rest of the year as well. Maybe you can be the 2014 super innovative, because you got a lot of ideas.
I do. Well, you're a great interviewer. Thank you so much.
It's Regina Lark,
Okay.
certified professional organizer from aclearpath.net, today on Keeping You Organized.